Welcome to today's meeting of the Transportation Licensing Commission. We are meeting by video conference and telephone today. I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call, and I'm going to call on our commissioners, and if you will please answer in the affirmative if you're here. Mr. Kerry Rogers. Here. Mr. Freddie Carr. Here. Ms. Mona Lisa Warren. And she's Warren, she's muted.
Oh, there we go. Here. Sorry. I couldn't get it.
Patrick McNally.
Present.
Mr. Carr.
Renee Swanson.
Here with my mother, Murtis Shope, and Jimmy Mitchell.
Great. And I believe we have a quorum. So let me read our notice of appeal process before we get started. Pursuant to the provisions of section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Law, notice is hereby given that if you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Because we're meeting telephonically and by video conference, we do have a call-in line or phone number. I'd like to announce that phone number for all of our viewers. That number is 629-255-1913. Next, before we proceed, meeting telephonically and by video conference, the Commission must vote on the record that the COVID-19 pandemic requires it to hold a telephonic meeting as permitted by the Governor's executive order. So in order to do that, we've got to have a motion that due to the pandemic, it's required that we meet in this format. And before one of our commissioners makes that motion, I'd like to again give Ms. Costonis an opportunity to make sure we frame that motion appropriately. Ms. Costonis?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the current Governor's Executive Order that we're up to at this point on this issue is Governor's Executive Order 71. And we're actually waiting with bated breath to see if he will extend that executive order because it expires in a couple of days. The executive order requires a motion that the business of this commission constitutes essential business of the metropolitan government, and it's necessary for this commission to meet electronically in order to preserve the public health and safety in light of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Would any commissioner like to make a motion? If you'll raise your hand, I'll call on you. Mr. McNally.
Yeah, I would make a motion that the business of this commission is essential to the metropolitan government, and that because of COVID-19 and under the Governor's Executive Order number 71, that it's necessary to conduct this business electronically.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Was that you, Mr. Carr?
It is.
Great. I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Mr. Carr.
Aye.
Ms. Warren.
Aye.
Mr. McNally.
Aye.
And motion passes. Ms. Swanson, could you please mute yourself? I think we're getting some feedback on your side. Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda, we have approval of last month's minutes. We met on January 28th, 2021, and Mr. Fields, prior to today's meeting, submitted draft minutes. I know Ms. Warren had some proposed revisions, and Mr. Fields circulated that revised set as well. Would anyone like to propose a motion to approve the revised minutes? Please raise your hand and I'll call on you.
Well, I think since Ms. Warren revised the minutes, she ought to make that motion today. I appreciate Commissioner Warren looking over the minutes carefully.
Ms. Warren?
Happy to do it. Make a motion that we approve the minutes of the meeting from January 28th, 2021.
And is there a second? Mr. McNally?
I would second that motion.
All right, I'll do another roll call vote. Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
And Mr. Carr?
Aye.
And Ms. Westlake, I see you've joined us. I'm sorry if I missed calling on you on the last vote here, but how would you like to vote? Ms. Westlake, can you hear me? Not sure she can hear me. I'll come back. Ms. Warren, it's your motion. How would you like to vote?
Aye.
Mr. McNally?
Aye.
And now coming back to Ms. Westlake.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I'm having audio trouble. So yes, I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes.
She's on her phone. That's why.
Next item on our agenda is under public hearings. There's a request to transfer an emergency record zone currently operated and assigned to Hillwood Record Service and to transfer it to Mitchell's West Nashville Record Service. Mr. Fields.
The commission, as you know, is fully responsible for assigning emergency record operations in Nashville and Davidson County. Anytime a request is changed, if the commission chooses to have a hearing, they have a hearing to discuss it. In this particular case, Hillwood Record, which has been an operator for years and years in Nashville, has made a request, would like to leave the business. They have reached an agreement for the sale of the business with West Nashville. However, the sale of a zone is not a part of the sale. The commission has that exclusive right, so they can buy businesses and sell business, but you can't sell a zone. So that's the request today. Hillwood has the Shope family has operated the Hillwood Records for years. Mr. Shope was legendary in his career as one of our emergency record operators. Miss Shope picked up the mantle, and the kids have picked up, and they've all worked together. Hillwood has done a tremendous job for the city over the years, and is in many ways a model over the years of how people should operate. They understand customer service, and they've done a good job. However, they're interested in being out of the business. They'll be available to talk with you. Mr. Mitchell is also, so Ms. Shope, Ms. Swanson, and maybe some of the other kids are there as well. Mr. Mitchell is available to discuss. We do have one call. I do not know who's on the line, but we do have one person that wants to be heard on the public hearing. So however you want to proceed, if you want to hear from the call or if you want to go hear from, you're the chair, so you're advised.
Thank you. All right, well, I do want to state at this time formally, we are opening the public hearing regarding the request. I'll announce again our call-in line. It's 629-255-1913. And Mr. Fields, I know you've told me that a representative from Hillwood is here as well as from Mitchell's West Nashville Record Service. I guess we'll go ahead and hear from Mitchell's first, and then we'll take in any callers. Mr. Mitchell?
Wait.
Hillwood Record Services
You gotta
business.
scroll over. He didn't unmute me. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mitchell, you were cut off at the very beginning, but I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank the board for listening to our concerns.
And
Appreciate your time.
Mr. Mitchell, you could, oh, you're adjusting the camera. Good. Okay, I was going to say you could sit down if you'd like, but you've adjusted the camera.
Yeah. So a few months ago, I was approached in regards to my interest in Hillwood. We've always worked with Hillwood real well. We've had a good relationship with them. They ran the best operation that could possibly be operated in Nashville. And it was a privilege to be considered for it. We did come to an agreement on purchasing the business. We have been backing them up when they needed our backup. We are willing to allow any employees that wish to come with us to come with us. And we feel like we are the best and most qualified to do this job. It is connected right directly to West Nashville. West Nashville has a real small area for light duty, and it would definitely help the light duty part of West Nashville record.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. At this point, Mr. Fields, we can go ahead and take in the call-in person. I'm not sure if they're already connected or if we need to have someone do that.
I'm going to be connecting him just now. Hold on just a second.
Thank you.
Can you scoot up, please? Please scoot up.
What's wrong?
Be here for the meeting.
What?
Can you be here?
Me?
Ray, good afternoon.
You have a call.
Great. Hello, this is Sal Hernandez.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. If you'll please introduce yourself, you've got the floor.
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. James Weaver, 511 Union Street, Nashville, Tennessee. Here today representing TOPO. I have this commission in the past. I'll be nearly responded the chairman and sales on Tuesday, February the 16th, sets out the comments with regard to this request. That email doesn't really need any explanation. And just to make sure that the email wasn't back in the record. And if it is in the record, then that'll end TOPO's comment on this proposed transaction.
Okay, Mr. Weaver, the email that you sent to me and Mr. Fields has been given to the commission. It is not, as far as I know, part of the record for today's meeting. We certainly can make that email part of the record. Are you still there, Mr. Weaver?
He's still showing live on the telephone here. Mr. Weaver, are you present? But to your point, Mr. Chairman, we certainly can make that a part of the record. It was circulated with all the commissioners, so it can be a part of the record.
Great.
So if you could make it part of the record, I would appreciate that, and just that, and I appreciate the commission and all you guys do for that ends my comment. I'm going to hang up.
Thank you. And Mr. Fields, has anyone else called in about the public hearing?
There are no other calls, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and I don't want to cut the hearing short. Is there, Ms. Swanson, are you wanting to make any kind of public statement?
Ms. Swanson, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I would like to say that over the years, West Nashville has helped, when we needed a backup. And of course, our family has decided that, it is time to retire the wreckers. I do know that Jimmy offers the quality of service that I respect and that my family respects. I know that we have a good reputation with our customers, and I feel 100% confident that Jimmy Mitchell will be able to not only handle our customers, but carry on the reputation that we built. And, I know that he puts his employees through training programs, and he has the employees in place ready to carry the zone. And so I hope that y'all would consider this and yay.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson.
And could my mother say something, please?
Yes.
You don't want to? Okay, that's okay. She doesn't want to.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of personal privilege that I'm not sure I'm afforded because I'm not a member, but looking at Ms. Shope, I was able to visit with her a week or two ago, and it's an emotional day for a lot of us. For them, for us, because we've worked with them, basically since I came into Metro government back in the 80s. They're, as I said earlier, they're legendary, and they've served the community well. It's in many ways it's a sad day, but it's a day of celebration. Whether or not you decide how you reassign it is not what I'm talking about. The fact that Ms. Shope's given years and years, and I just want to make sure the commission recognizes that and thanks her, thanks the family, and remembers Mr. Shope, who's been gone from us for a while, but certainly special people to your staff.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fields, for those comments, and I echo those sentiments. Certainly, the commission appreciates all the work done over the years by Hillwood Record Service and recognizes the significance here of Hillwood retiring from the business. Before I close the call for the public hearing, are there any comments that the commissioners would like to make? Please raise your hand. Mr. McNally.
As I read the email that was made part of the record, Mr. Weaver, on behalf of the company he's representing here, TOPRO, thank you. Their last paragraph says they do not wish to protest the acquisition of the transfer of Zone 9 to West Nashville. They're just sort of doing a shot across the bow of a warning if West Nashville picks up any more zones. Do I understand that correctly? In other words, Mr. Weaver's not objecting to the acquisition by West Nashville of Hillwood. They just seem to be sending a shot across the bow that they're keeping an eye on it.
I would never pretend to speak for James Weaver. However, it's my impression that based on the letter and the conversation I had with the owner of TOPRO, again, they weren't objecting to the transfer. But, clearly they may have some issues that maybe should be explored maybe at a later date over emergency zones and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Fields.
Yeah, it's my understanding, and doing a little digging here, that, we have a number of emergency record zones that are spread across the county. TOPRO has 3 of those zones. Martin's has 3 of those zones. Dad's has 4 of those zones, and if approved today, would have 5. And there are a number of other zones where there's one record service covering the zone, so they'll have one zone. And so I interpreted Mr. Weaver's email to mean that that the Metro Code requires there to be an equitable distribution of those zones. And while they're not arguing that approving the acquisition of the Hillwood zone to Mr. Mitchell's company wouldn't necessarily violate that Metro rule, that for us to continue to allow Mr. Mitchell to acquire zones, that they would have an issue, and it's certainly, I took the same interpretation you did, Mr. McNally, that they would likely object the next time around if it happens again. And so that's what I've gathered from Mr. Weaver's email. He did expressly say they were not lodging a protest, so it's not as if they're trying to prevent us from granting the request by Hillwood, but that for us to keep in mind the equitable nature of these zones and how they're to be distributed.
Yeah, if you don't mind me just putting 2 more cents in there, that's something I hadn't thought about before, that we have an obligation not only to consider the public necessity and convenience, but also it appears there's a consideration of equitable distribution of the emergency zones among the qualified wrecker services. And that's an obligation I'll have to keep in mind when we revisit this.
All right, at this point in time, we're going to, well, before I do that, has anyone else called in, Mr. Fields?
No, sir, there are no additional phone calls.
All right, at this point in time, we're closing the public hearing, and now it's open for discussion by the commissioners. Any further discussion by any of the commissioners, please raise your hand. Having not seen anyone wanting to make further comment about the request, would anyone like to propose a motion regarding the request to transfer the emergency record zone currently assigned to Hillwood Record Service to Mitchell's West Nashville Record Service? Please raise your hand. Mr. McNally.
I would make a motion to approve the transfer of the emergency record zone from currently assigned to Hillwood Record Service to Mitchell's West Nashville Record Service, in light of the fact that West Nashville is purchasing Hillwood.
And Mr. Rogers?
I'll second the motion. I'll second the motion.
Thank you. I'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Westlake?
Aye.
Mr. Carr?
Aye.
Ms. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
And Mr. McNally?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on our agenda. Oh, before we move on, again, thank you. I'd like to express gratitude to Hillwood Record Service and also to Mitchell's. I appreciate you bringing this to before us today so we could recognize the long service of Hillwood Record Service, and good luck to both of you. Next item on the agenda is under other passenger vehicles for hire. We've been asked to review the company application for Ismail Limo. Mr. Fields.
Before another passenger vehicle for hire company can go into operation, it has to be approved by the commission. They've made application and everything is in order.
Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the application? Mr. Rogers?
Sure. I'll also move to that we accept the application.
And Mr. McNally?
I'll second the motion to approve Ismail Limo.
All right, there's another roll call vote. Ms. Westlake?
Aye.
Mr. Carr?
Aye.
Ms. Warren?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. McNally?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Mr. Fields, is there any new business before us today?
No, sir. I would give you not a warning, but advance notice that we have procurement is in the process of the contractual agreement work with the three SUMD operators. I anticipate contracts that they would add, like for the Transportation Licensing Commission to take up. I anticipate that it will happen in March. We may want to come with a special meeting, but at least by the March meeting, you will have contracts to consider. There may be other things that day we may bring as well involving the SUMDs and scooters, but it will require your approval or your consideration. Ms. Costonas or Ms. Ladd may be able to tell us if we've heard any more from the governor. We are anticipating being able to WebEx again next month. We do not know that yet, so I don't know if the governor has changed his executive order or not. So I'll defer to Ms. Costonas on that, as well as any other information on those contracts.
Yes, sir, Mr. Fields. I did check the governor's website at 11:30 this morning to see if there was any new information on the executive order. We have been given an indication that we think that there will be an extension of the current executive order in place to allow electronic meetings to continue for boards and commissions. However, the official word that extension is occurring has not yet come down, and I didn't see anything. I looked at the executive orders posted online and in the press releases, and I didn't see anything as of 11:30 this morning. So I do not have a solid update for you, but like I said, from staff to staff, we've been given indications that it will be extended for at least 30 days. I'm not sure if it will be a 30 or 60-day extension. As Mr. Fields said, we are working on the contracts for the SUMD companies that submitted applications in response to the RFP, and those contracts would need to go before you at the next meeting, as well as you all making a decision as to the number of vehicle permits to award to each company, and any regulatory changes addressing some of the that we may wish to adopt at that same time.
Thank you, Mr. Stonis. Mr. Rogers, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. You answered part of it as we decide how many they get. Do we also decide things like what fees we will charge them? Is that part of it?
Yes, that is within your regulatory authority to decide.
Okay, so that's not part of what they're negotiating in terms of the contracts, then I take it.
So the contracts incorporate by reference the regulations that the commission has the authority to adopt. So they interact. So you will still continue to have the regulatory authority that you have had in the past in terms of enacting regulations that the scooter companies are required to comply with.
So are you going to make a recommendation to us about what needs to be done, or we just make it up on our own?
So we certainly, I think, would be glad to have any specific suggestions from any of the commissioners as to things that they would like to see. But I think Mr. Fields and I can work on some recommendations.
Our intention is, as we always do, your legal staff works extremely hard on your behalf and very diligent to respond to the many questions and, as I call it, hand-holding opportunities they have to have for me. We're going to meet with 3 vendors that have been selected. We will be talking with them about their operations. Because they certainly have some concerns. I think they're going to raise some questions to the commission about making some changes on the regulations. We've had at least one commissioner shared some things they're very interested in. So if any commissioners have very specific or even not very specific, they have issues that they would like to have raised, discussed, and then recommendations from staff, including legal, we'd certainly be happy to have that because there are a lot of issues ranging from scooters to from the scooters themselves to the electric bicycle issues to fees and that sort of thing. So we certainly be happy to talk with any of the commissioners that have any ideas. And as the public's watching this, if it's coming from the public, because your meeting will be it's probably in March, there'll be a public hearing, and that'll be the opportunity. The one thing we do have to do is by ordinance, we have to give the operators adequate notice to any changes that the commission is anticipating. Is that an accurate way to put that, Ms. Costonas?
Yes. So we do have to have something that is able to be circulated in written form prior to the meeting in order for you all to enact regulations. It's not required that you enact or adopt any new regulations as of the March meeting. It could be something that you do later, you could theoretically keep in place what is in place now. Maybe it would be helpful if Billy would be willing to kind of circulate to all of y'all the regulations that are currently in place so that you can kind of see, what our baseline is currently. And, if you have any policy recommendations that you would like to add to what exists, then that would give you kind of the opportunity to draw that comparison.
And Mr. Rogers, you had another comment?
I have one other question of Mr. Fields. Will the mayor's operating budget be public by then?
I do not know when the mayor will. I think he has to have it out by the 1st of May. So it will not be in March. We have requested and made recommendations that we have additional staffing available to both administrative and enforcement. It wouldn't be a big increase, but a couple of people is what we're suggesting to be able to add for enforcement. One of the things that we're going to be able to do in this new process is monitor. We'll have a whole lot more computer data, I think, and be able to, and some hopefully better expertise. It's going to be interesting times, but we do have some experience this time with the SUMDs as opposed to when they appeared the last time, and the commission was blessed with the regulatory authority from the council. So yes, I hope we have some increases. I do believe I have every reason to believe we're going to have they'll be approved.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Fields. Not having heard any other new business to discuss, it's time to adjourn. So again, thank you for attending today's video conference and telephone conference. And until next time, thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.